Hello Internet, this is LordMaddog and I'm coming at you with another quick tutorial for my SOULSLIKE project. As we were going through the last one for about bullet heavens, I realized I need to go over our stat components. So we're going to go over this really hopefully quickly. It may not be as quick as I'm hoping. So I've gone ahead and opened up our stat component, and I'm just going to tell you exactly what each one of these sections do. We're in the main event graph. So this is over here is how the stats, each stat point affect each stat. Now I could have made this into a database, but I decided instead to go with just laid it out here according to what each one does. And then we're also going to need to cover our stat effects here and how stat effects works and how you would go about adding a new status effect, as I'm not going to go ahead and add a new status effect at this point. I'll probably need poison at one point, but this is what we're going to do. Okay, so first let's go talk about stat points. Okay, so when you first load up the game, or you're loading your last save game, it'll go through this here and it'll begin play because it gets spawned in the character. The character will get spawned in, and then it'll set all things to default. All right, and after that, it'll delay long enough so the defaults are fully set in. Okay, and then after that, it'll update your UI widget, and as it updates UI widget, now we're going to go to the auto level up, and this is where the points you already have will be loaded into the game. So if it is an NPC, it's going to load all the stats and equally distribute the stat points according to XP that's given, the level has been chosen. Okay, and I'm not going to go into each one of these, but basically that's what it does. So it's auto level up the player, auto level load spent XP, and this is auto level up the NPC. Okay, so each stat has a specific effect. So for over here, we're going to go up. If we have endurance effect, our endurance is going to increase our main actual endurance visual, obviously, endurance stat. We're going to go add some health. We're going to add 1 health for each one. We're going to add 1 max degrade. You got to do your degrade, and for all your visual stats, you have to have degrade the same. That way you can actually show where it's going to be. It goes backwards. So the UI just make sure that if you level up health, stamina, or mana, you have to also level up your health integrate is the same. And you see here we get 0.5 stamina per level, 0.5 stamina degrade per level. We get 1 plus posture, 1 plus posture denigrade per level, and then we have poise, stamina regen I removed because that was a little bit OP, but you can easily change these stats according to what you want. All right, substat melee defense a little bit, you get a little bit. I removed the max stat from mana because there's no reason for why did I even have mana for endurance? I'm not sure why I had that originally. Obviously, that doesn't belong there. And then lifespan. Lifespan does absolutely nothing. It's just a placeholder stat at the moment. Okay. And then after that, it basically updates everything. PC and ALU means auto level up, but it'll also update the stat windows as it does that, as he calls that. And basically, each stat does something along this line. Now, if you wanted to add a new stat, you would have to go into the stat components, would be in my enums, and in my enums, it would be, let me find my enums here over in the corner. Enums, main stats, I think it was. Yeah, main stats right here. So this is your enum, and then you would add a new main stat, and you'd have to go through each step and try to figure out exactly how to do it. I'm not going to go through all the steps you would need to get it to update each one of these things. I think 6 stats is pretty good, but if you want to add more, that's plenty. It should be pretty straightforward because there are lots and lots of examples. Just follow the examples out. Okay, so then we have our region of stats. You don't really need to mess with these. I have pretty much worked out the system. It's pretty good. Spend XP. It's when you're at the level up screen, you push the expend XP button, it'll spend XP. So that's what this is here. Respec, this is how the respec system works. It's pretty straightforward. It'll just automatically refund all XP spent and give that to the character. Okay. I think that's everything you need to really talk about here. Let's talk about how the stats work. If status effects works. So right now we only have status effects: ice, fire, wind, earth, lightning. Status effects. Probably will want that will sooner or later add poison in there. But basically, these is a timer. It activates a timer on each one of these with a retriggable delay, so you're not spamming it constantly. So you're not reactivating the timer, and every time you take stat damage, it is calculated in through here. This is sent in through here as well. Okay, and let's say, well, let's go ahead and look at that's reduced. How do I call? So where is it at? The actual stat. It's calling. Oh, okay, this is reduced. This is the reduced system. I don't actually have the connect. Each stat is actually being called elsewhere in the actual stats themselves. So I have to, yeah, here it is. Modify current stat and then set current stat element. Here, this is what actually changes the stat element. Okay, so in here, once it's called, it's changing all the stats. It's pretty easy to look at. And then it'll go right here. And it's clearing the function for this, and then we're going to set, if it's active, we're going to set the stat element active, and this is what will happen when the status effects get equipped. So each one will have their own things that happens, equips, what items to remove, and what those items do. So basically it's like an equipping a piece of armor for every stat, and then each of those stats will actually do whatever's done on that armor. So the rest of the stuff is actually handled in the armor of that piece of equipment. So yeah, we don't need to come to our equipment thing. It's just you're equipping the stat effect that you're going to be doing. So in here, if we add a new stat effect in our magic type, we would have it down here. We would have it equip a specific class. And then after it gets equipped, we're going to have a thing that removes that equipment. And that is, let me see here, effect. This is a reduce element, modify current element. It should be pretty easy to find. There should be a click here. Just got to remember where it's at. Tick element. Element tick. No, that's the tick. It's activating it. I'm just going to figure out set element active. Where's the set element? There it is. End element. Here it is. There it is. So this is for each element, it will unequip that piece of equipment instead of equipping it. So it's pretty much the same as equipping the status effect and unequipping the status effect. And that's how you would add a new status effect. You would have to set up the equipment that you wanted to equip, what that equipment does, and you can see the examples of what these things like. So lightning, I think the easiest one to describe would be fire. So we're going to go ahead and do a fire. We're going to open up our fire status effect and see what it does. So on equip, this will call on equip. Oh, that's unequip. We want to call on equip. On equip, it'll apply speed down. Is this fire? Oh no. Well, it's left over, but speed. It's not actually speed down. It's actually apply status effect. So it'll spawn this particle system, and it'll start a timer. And it will start playing this sound at the character. It'll attach the sound, and yes, it'll attach the sound and attach it to the player, and then it'll apply burn damage. It's attached here at the player. Just play a small fire sound, and it'll delay 0.2 seconds, and it will do a sphere trace at the character location, hit him with the fire to do fire damage again at that location. And it actually does a percentage of the character's damage. So it does 10%. Oh, okay. So I have fire doing 10% damage, 10% of the character's health damage every 2 seconds. Oh, wait, no, I have it at burn time, the timer here, every 1 second. There it is. 1.2 seconds. Wonder why I have that delay there. Ah, because the sound pops up first. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, yep. And then the player takes the damage after the fire sound. So every 1.2 seconds, the player takes 10% of his health. That seems a little bit OP, but I guess that was just for testing purposes. But that's basically how stat effects worked. There's not much else I want to cover in the status effect thing. It's all pretty straightforward. except for skills. Skills are a bit more complicated, but since skills are, I've already talked about how skills are added and taken away. There's no reason to actually go about how they work. If you want to go ahead and look at how they work, that's fine. But that's everything. Hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it has been helpful if you're going through it. If there's any questions you have, or I didn't cover something you would like to know, go ahead and ask in the comments. Don't hesitate to ask, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible, and if necessary, even make a tutorial aligning to that question you have. LordMaddog, signing off.